Welcome back. If you listen to my podcast this week, I talked about returning really to what I think I do best, which is talking about Neville Goddard, his readings, and really other mystics, but demystifying some of this stuff around the law of attraction and making sure that for everyone who's coming into these teachings that maybe I can say something in a way that just makes a little bit more sense, or you're able to incorporate it into your life in a bit of an easier way. Because if you're anything like me, I really struggled when I first started learning about the law of attraction. Or law of assumption. There was so much confusing information, and then some of the books that I would try to read were just like super confusing. I just struggled to follow them. And so I continued to go back to them, especially Neville Goddard, who I probably feel like is the teacher, not probably, I certainly feel like is the teacher that I resonate the most with. And so I wanted to do a little bit of a series on my YouTube channel that is diving a little bit deeper into his books and reading the full chapters. So I'm starting today with Your Faith is Your Fortune. And you can come back. I'll do a couple more of these throughout the week. Definitely let me know down in the comments if you appreciate this type of content, if you have any questions, if there's other things that you'd like me to address. This book is pretty big. I think there's 27 chapters. Yeah, 27 chapters total. So it'll take me a bit to get through these, but I'm happy to kind of address some other things in the meantime as well. But I will be reading the chapter and then kind of giving a little bit of my understanding of how this works. Again, I talked about this on my podcast this week as well. And I talked about chapters 1 and chapter 2, but with just snippets of information. And it'll definitely be same thread of information, but different depending on where you're watching the content. So I would definitely go check out that podcast episode as well. I'll leave the link to Spotify and Apple. Oh, actually, no, I'll leave the link to the YouTube video version of the podcast episode, but you can find it on podcast hosting platforms as well if you would prefer to listen there. So I'm going to start with Your Faith is Your Fortune. I'm going to go ahead and read the first chapter and then kind of talk about my understanding and how I have used this idea or this principle to make some changes in my own life, whether that's for my own well-being or also to understand how to truly to get things. I'm not going to lie, right? Like if I want an experience in life, these are kind of the ways that I have used the content and the information that I've learned from Neville Goddard or additional teachers. I'll sprinkle in some because I just love to read, so I've read quite a bit. But I'll share all of that throughout here. So I hope that you find this beneficial. Again, definitely let me know if you do. And if not, trust me, my feelings won't be hurt unless you're really mean about it. But if you just let me know, like, hey, this is not really aligned with what I'm looking for, I'd like some additional information on something else, I'm totally open to that. So open to the feedback. So let's get started. In the beginning was the unconditioned awareness of being. And the unconditioned awareness of being became conditioned by imagining itself to be something. And the unconditioned awareness of being became that which it had imagined itself to be. So did creation begin. By this law, first conceiving, then becoming that conceived, all things evolve out of nothing. And without the sequence, there is not anything made that is made. Before Abraham or the world was, I am. When all of time shall cease to be, I am. I am the formless awareness of being, conceiving myself to be man. By my everlasting law of being, I am compelled to be and to express all that I believe myself to be. I am the eternal no thingness, containing within my formless self the capacity to be all things. I am that in which all my conceptions of myself live and move and have their being, and apart from which they are not. I dwell within every conception of myself. From this withinness, I ever seek to transcend all conceptions of myself. By the very law of my being, I transcend my conceptions of myself only as I believe myself to be that which does not transcend. I am the law of being, and beside me there is no law. I am that I am. Now, admittedly, the first time I read that, I was like, what the heck is this man talking about? Like, it's all in English. I understand English, but I'm not following any of this. And then the more that I started to dig in and really focus and just think of it in piece by piece, and I'll also share the website that I use to read. I've got Neville Goddard's Complete Reader, but I also use this website because they do an audio version of each chapter of every book, and it's just phenomenal. I love the man's voice who does it. I just find it great. It's a really wonderful website. So I'll make sure I leave the link down below so that everybody can have access, because if you can't afford the book right now or it's not available to you or you're not able to get it, you can use this website to actually read the books for free, which is fantastic, and listen to them in an audible format, which is amazing. So if you look at the first piece of this, it says, in the beginning was the unconditioned awareness of being. And the unconditioned awareness of being became conditioned by imagining itself to be something. He also talks then about before the world I am. When all of time shall cease to be, I am. I am the formless awareness of being, conceiving myself to be man. My understanding of this is Neville's talking about God, the universe, source, whatever word you like to use. I use God. Neville is saying, here's God. God is, right? God was not conditioned at this point of anything, right? And we don't know. I don't know. In the beginning, I can't even conceive what a beginning would look like for God. But if I consider even myself, when I am born into this world, I am in this form. I start as a baby who knows like absolutely nothing, right? When I come out, I need other people to teach me about the world. I am not yet conditioned. I just am. I'm aware that I'm here, right? I have to breathe, I have to eat, I have reflexes. Do have a survival instinct, although I can't survive on my own at all, but I do have a survival instinct. So I just am. But then my experiences in the world and my perceptions start to change as more and more happens to me. I learn from my parents, I learn from my environment, I learn how to react to things based on the experiences that I have in the world. So if something happens to me, my emotional reaction, my conditioning, my upbringing then starts to condition the things that I believe, whether I am worthy or unworthy, whether I am smart or not smart, whether I live in poverty or I am wealthy and I'm able to support myself, whether I am kind and empathetic, those things are all conditioned in me. They're things that I have decided to believe true of myself and to take on as my identity, right? Like my state is my identity. So as I take those things on, I am conditioning my awareness. Now, this is not to say that there's not some things that you just kind of naturally are. Like I naturally think that I am I naturally think that I am an empathetic person, right? I tend to care about people. I think that I'm funny. I don't think that somebody taught me to be funny, but I could definitely be conditioned to think that I'm not funny. I could be conditioned to think that I'm not worthy. I could be conditioned to think that I am not lovable or desired or whatever else kind of thing, could come up. So you have all these conditions that then come onto yourself. And those are the things that you believe true of yourself. And that then becomes your state. These things that you accept as true become your state. And you can look around at your own emotional reactions to the world, to the events that happen to you, to identify what your state is. You can look at the habits that you have each and every day to identify your state. And you can look at your state just as like truly your identity. There are things that you believe that are true of yourself. And as we go through this book, we'll talk a lot more about this. And I think this is what's phenomenal when you really start to dig deep into his teachings, or really any of these kind of teachings, is that you have the ability to take a look at your own perceptions, the things that you're doing, the things that you're believing is true, and your reaction so that you can understand more of yourself. Now, there's another possibility that somebody may say something to me or treat me a different way. Like if there's a certain person that maybe isn't responding to me or isn't responding to me in a way that I was hoping that they would, there's a chance maybe that you'll think, oh my gosh, what is happening? Like I'm not being treated the way that I want to. They don't care about me, whatever the case may be. And that could be because of your current state, your identity when it comes to that relationship. And that's what I mean about using your reactions to understand what your state is. Like if you're looking for a very special person, you're trying to move into like a loving relationship, and you feel like every guy you talk to just ghosts you. And you're like, this is just kind of how I get treated. All men are dogs. I constantly get treated this way because nobody finds me attractive or they don't like me. That's the state that you're coming from. Even if you are constantly saying, I am beautiful, I am desired, I am beautiful, I am desired. So it's very important to start to look at the conditioning that you've given your awareness, right? Like you know that you are here, you are existing. So now go ahead and take that a step further and start paying attention to what you've conditioned on yourself. What do you truly believe of yourself? What do you truly believe is true of yourself? And I want you to spend some time really doing that over today and tomorrow. I'll probably post chapter 2 either tomorrow or on Thursday, but I want you to start paying attention in between there of the conditioning that you have given yourself. If you were a blank slate and you had to write out the things that you truly, honestly feel and believe true of yourself, and you can take a look at your reactions to the world, what would you list as your conditions? And it's a really good journaling exercise just to sit down and write out what conditions have I placed on my own awareness. I hope you found this helpful. That's chapter 1 of Your Faith is Your Fortune. And I hope that you enjoyed it, of course. And I will be back to continue with the series.